a science fiction sleep story, presented by Bedtime Stories. Make yourself comfortable, close your eyes, take a slow, deep breath. And now, let the story begin. Elara lived in the saint of the universe. Not a place, not quite, but a feeling. A deep, quiet hum that vibrated through the very floor of her room on the stellarium, up her bare feet and into her bones. The stellarium wasn't just any space station, it was a jewel, a whisper-thin ring of polished chrome steel and crystal, orbiting high above the shimmering blue-green marble of old Earth. From her viewport, Earth was a distant, familiar comfort. But it was the other view, the one that filled the curved wall opposite her bed, that truly held Elara's heart. That view was the saint of the cosmos. A boundless velvety blackness pricked with a million diamond dust stars. No atmospheric haze, no city lights, just the pure, unfiltered brilliance of the galaxy. Every night Elara would lie in her gravity-cushioned bed, her small face pressed against the cool transparent steel of her personal viewport, tracing constellations with her finger. She had names for them, hundreds of them, names her parents, busy scientists, would smile at kindly but never quite remember. There was the laughing nebula, the whispering veil, the comet cat chasing the mouse star. But of all the celestial wonders, one star, in particular, captured her imagination, a star she simply called Lumen L. Lumen wasn't the brightest star. In fact, it was quite ancient, a slow-burning red dwarf nestled in a cluster of younger, hotter suns. But to Elara, Lumen pulsed with a gentle, inviting glow, a steady beacon in the endless night. She often felt as if Lumen was watching her, just as she watched it. Sometimes, when the stellarium's main power conduits hummed a little lower, or a distant solar flare briefly washed out the lesser stars, Lumen seemed to intensify, a tiny knowing wink across the light years. Elara was 8 cycles old, and the stellarium had been her only home. Her parents, Dr. Aris and Dr. Lyra Vance, were stellar cartographers, their lives dedicated to mapping the ever-expanding frontiers of the galaxy. Their work was vital, their discoveries often broadcast across the intergalactic networks, but it meant they were often absorbed, their thoughts miles away, lost in the equations of warp fields or the spectral analysis of exoplanets. Elara understood. She really did. But sometimes, when the silence of her room grew too vast, she wished for a little less science and a little more story. Her best friend and confidante was Blink. Blink wasn't a person, or even an animal, but a small pearlescent orb that floated silently at her side. Blink was an advanced AI, programmed for companionship and education, and it could project anything Elara wished onto the walls of her room, forests of bioluminescent trees, shimmering oceans of alien worlds, or even the bustling market streets of old Earth cities, all in stunning, immersive holography. Blink's voice was soft, modulating like a gentle chime, and it always knew just what to say. Elara, your sleep cycle commences in 10 minutes. Would you like tonight's dreamscape to be the whispering woods of Ixylus Prime, or the cloud gardens of Erida? Elara didn't stir from the viewport. Her finger was still pressed against the cool transparent steel, directly over Lumen. Neither, Blink, she murmured, her voice a little wistful. Tonight, I just want the stars. All of them. And a story about a star that talks. Blink paused, its glow deepening to a thoughtful indigo. A star that talks? That is a delightful concept. Are you referring to a sentient stellar body, or perhaps a star that communicates through gravitational waves, or neutrino bursts? Elara giggled. No, Blink, not science talk, a real story, like a star that tells secrets or sings songs across the void. Ah, I understand, Blink replied, its tone shifting to a more narrative cadence. A story of myth and wonder then. Let me access the ancient archives. Perhaps the folk tales of the pre-jump era hold such narratives. As Blink began to weave a tale of a star goddess who sang forgotten lullabies to infant galaxies, Elara finally pulled away from the viewport. She settled into her bed, the soft gravity cushions molding to her form. The holographic projection of the star-filled cosmos shimmered around her, projected by Blink onto every surface, even the ceiling. It felt as if she were floating in the heart of space itself. But even as Blink's soothing voice filled the room, Elara found her gaze drifting back to the actual lumen, visible through the transparent steel. Tonight it seemed different. Not just a feeling. It had a subtle, almost imperceptible throb, a quiet shimmer that was distinct from the stellarium's own hum. It was like a heart beating, a slow, deep rhythm that resonated with something deep inside her. "Blink," she interrupted, a sudden urgency in her voice. "Look at lumen. Does it seem brighter?" Blink paused its story. Its orb floated closer to the viewport, its surface rippling with complex data readouts. "Scanning lumen, spectral analysis indicates a stable output. No discernible change in luminosity or radiation signature, Elara. Perhaps your perception is heightened by the narrative." Elara frowned. She trusted Blink, of course. But her eyes, her very feeling, told her something else. It wasn't brighter, not exactly. It was more alive. It was as if a tiny invisible thread now stretched from lumen directly to her, tugging gently. She closed her eyes, trying to focus on the feeling. The hum of the stellarium, the soft thrumming she'd always felt, seemed to align with lumen's subtle pulse. It was almost like a melody, a very, very slow and deep one. "Good night, Elara," Blink whispered, sensing her drifting off. The holographic stars began to dim, fading into a gentle, sleep-inducing twilight. But Elara didn't quite sleep. She lay there, listening to the silent song of lumen, until sleep finally pulled her under, carrying her to dreams filled with shimmering stardust and the echoes of ancient celestial whispers. 1. The next morning the stellarium was abuzz with its usual quiet efficiency. Dr. Aris Vance, Elara's father, was a man of precise movements and thoughtful silences. He had kind eyes, always a little tired, and a gentle hand that would ruffle Elara's hair when he passed her in the corridor. Dr. Lyra Vance, her mother, was a whirlwind of focused energy, her bright red hair often escaping its clip as she dashed between observation decks and data labs. She had a laugh like chimes and a knack for making the most complex scientific concepts sound like thrilling adventures. Breakfast was a quiet affair in their small family module, overlooking a different section of space. One dominated by the swirling nascent gas clouds of a distant nebula. Elara ate her nutrient paste, flavored to taste like her favorite earthberries, while her parents reviewed data on their personal compads. "The resonance patterns from the Cygnus X1 anomaly are fascinating, Lyra," Dr. Aris murmured, tapping a finger against his pad. "The gravitational lensing suggests a much larger mass than we initially calculated." Dr. Lyra hummed in agreement, her eyes fixed on her own screen. "And the energy signature is unprecedented. We might be looking at a completely new class of stellar remnant." Elara listened half-heartedly to the rapid-fire scientific exchange. She loved her parents, and she was proud of their work. But sometimes she wished they'd talk about something a little less cosmic. Or, at least, something cosmic that she could interact with, beyond just looking at it. "Mom, Dad," she began hesitantly, "last night, I felt something with lumen, like it was singing." Her parents looked up, blinking as if surprised to find her there. Dr. Aris offered a warm, tired smile. "Singing, sweetie, that's a beautiful thought. Stars do emit various forms of radiation, some of which we convert to audible frequencies for analysis, but it's not quite singing in the way you mean." "It's just your wonderful imagination, my little star dreamer," Dr. Lyra added, reaching over to squeeze Elara's hand. "Perhaps Blink's story influenced your perception." Elara deflated slightly. She knew they meant well. But it wasn't her imagination. It was real. The subtle thrumming had been unmistakable. "Well," she said, trying to sound casual, "I think I'll go to the observation deck today. Maybe lumen will sing again." Her parents exchanged a quick knowing glance. "Just be careful near the primary conduits, Elara," Dr. Aris cautioned. "And don't wander into the restricted sectors." "I won't," she promised, already sliding off her chair. She grabbed her gravity boost shoes from the rack by the door. They made walking feel like floating, perfect for the stellarium's slightly reduced gravity, and headed out. The stellarium was a marvel of engineering. Its central ring housed habitats, labs, and recreation zones, all connected by gleaming corridors and silent mag trains. But its real purpose was observation. Massive retractable sensor arrays dotted its outer surface, always pointed towards the depths of space, gathering data from every corner of the known and unknown universe. Elara made her way to the primary observation deck, a vast spherical chamber where the transparency of the walls could be adjusted to reveal the unfiltered void. Usually, scientists would be huddled around glowing consoles, analyzing data streams. Today, it was mostly empty, save for a few automated maintenance drones zipping along the curved surfaces. She found her favorite spot, a padded alcove with a perfect, unobstructed view of Lumen's cluster. She activated the local transparency field, and the wall before her dissolved, replaced by the breathtaking reality of deep space. Lumen, a tiny red ember, pulsed steadily. "Still there," she whispered, a smile touching her lips. "And still humming." Blink, ever present, floated beside her. Its stellar pulsations are within expected parameters for a red dwarf of its age and mass, Elara. Perhaps you are sensing the resonant frequencies of the stellarium's primary fusion core, which can sometimes create subtle vibrations throughout the habitat. "No, Blink," Elara insisted, closing her eyes and pressing her hands against the cool, invisible barrier of the transparency field. "It's Lumen, I know it." She focused, trying to filter out the stellarium's background hum, trying to isolate the unique vibration she felt. It was faint, like a memory of a sound. And then slowly she began to discern it. A pattern. Not just a steady hum, but a subtle rise and fall, a rhythmic variation within the constant thrum. It was almost like a code. "Blink," she said, opening her eyes. "Can you record the specific vibration? Not the general stellarium hum, but the subtle variations I'm pointing to." She moved her hand, not touching the field, but indicating the direction of Lumen. Blink's surface swirled with light. Attempting to isolate specific micro-vibrations in the immediate vicinity of your position, cross-referencing with external stellar readings. Processing. Elara sighed in frustration. "It's there, Blink. You just have to listen differently." She leaned back, her gaze fixed on Lumen. If her parents wouldn't believe her, and Blink couldn't detect it. This wasn't about science, not in the way they understood it. This was about a connection, a feeling, a whisper from the stars. Her eyes drifted around the observation deck, looking for inspiration. She spotted a small, rarely used alcove tucked away behind a bank of dormant consoles. It was a dusty corner, often overlooked, filled with old, forgotten equipment from the stellarium's early days. Her father often called it the Museum of Obsolete Tech. "Blink, let's explore that alcove," Elara decided, pushing off the floor and gliding towards it. "Maybe there's something old there that can hear better than the new stuff." Blink rotated, its luminescent surface brightening with curiosity. An intriguing hypothesis. Older technology may possess different sensory arrays, though often with reduced precision and range. The alcove was indeed dusty. Cables snaked across the floor, connecting ancient boxy machines with flashing lights and clunky interfaces. Most of it looked like something out of a historical data log. Elara ran a hand over a large, smooth panel, covered in strange symbols that looked almost pictographic. "What's this, Blink?" she asked, tracing a finger over a spiral glyph. Blink projected a small holographic schematic. "This appears to be a very early model of a stellar resonator. It was designed to detect and amplify subtle gravitational and electromagnetic fluctuations for purposes of long-range communication." Elara's eyes widened. "A stellar resonator? Can it hear stars?" "In a manner of speaking," Blink replied. "It was intended to detect natural stellar phenomena that might indicate intelligent life, or unusual cosmic events. However, its sensitivity was often overwhelmed by background noise, leading to its obsolescence. But what if it could hear something the new sensors can't?" Elara mused, feeling a thrill of excitement. Like the quiet things? The whispers? She looked around for a power source, a way to turn it on. Most of the old equipment was clearly offline. Then she spotted it, a small, worn datapad tucked beneath a pile of ancient manuals. It was an antique, with a physical keyboard and a thick, rectangular screen. She picked it up. Its casing was a dull, textured plastic, very different from the sleek, transparent materials of modern tech. This datapad appears to be an operational interface for the stellar resonator, Blink noted, its light shimmering. However, its power cell is depleted, and the entire unit seems to be disconnected from the stellarium's main grid. Elara didn't let that deter her. Is there a way to recharge it, or connect it? She noticed a thick, coiled cable leading from the back of the stellar resonator, ending in a plug that looked nothing like the stellarium's standard ports. But next to it, on the dusty floor, was a small, independent power conduit, a standalone unit with a universal adapter. It was used for emergency systems, or for powering ancient equipment during maintenance check. It was probably forgotten. "This is it," Elara exclaimed, carefully pulling the cable from the resonator. The plug looked like it would fit the universal adapter. She then looked at the datapad. There was a small charging port. She rummaged through her backpack, finding her personal energy stick, a small portable power cell she used for her toys. It had a multi-adapter tip. With careful, deliberate movements, Elara plugged the stellar resonator's cable into the universal power conduit. A faint hum vibrated through the floor beneath her feet, different from the stellarium's usual thrum. Then, she connected her energy stick to the datapad's charging port. A weak, flickering light appeared on the datapad's screen. Old, pixelated symbols and strange, archaic characters slowly resolved themselves. It was an operating system from centuries ago, a relic of the stellarium's inception. "Success!" Blink chimed, its light pulsing with excitement. Partial power restored to the datapad, attempting to establish a connection with the stellar resonator. The stellar resonator itself began to hum, a deeper, more resonant sound than Elara had ever heard. Lights on its main panel flickered, green and amber. A small, circular dish on its top slowly rotated, emitting a faint, almost invisible ripple. Elara's heart pounded. This felt like a secret, a forbidden adventure. She knew her parents wouldn't approve of her messing with ancient, uncalibrated tech, especially one designed to listen to cosmic phenomena. But her intuition, that persistent whisper from Lumen, urged her on. "What do I do, Blink?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Blink projected a simplified interface onto the datapad screen. "This appears to be a frequency tuner. It can filter and amplify specific bands of cosmic radiation. We need to focus it on Lumen's coordinates." Elara carefully entered Lumen's coordinates, which she knew by heart from her endless stargazing. The stellar resonator's hum deepened, and the small dish on top began to vibrate with more intensity. A new set of data scrolled across the datapad screen, raw and unfiltered. It looked like static, a chaotic jumble of lines and squiggles. "It's just noise," Elara said, her excitement fading slightly. "The sensitivity is too high, or the frequency range is too broad," Blink explained. "We must narrow the focus. Perhaps there is a listen function or a filter setting." Elara scrolled through the archaic menus, her finger hovering over options like gravitational wave attenuation and neutrino burst isolation. Then she saw it. A small icon that looked like an ear, labeled aural conversion. "Blink, what's aural conversion?" "It translates detected energy fluctuations into audible sound waves," Blink explained. "A crude but direct method of sensing cosmic phenomena, popular in the stellarium's early days before advanced visualizers became standard." Elara's breath hitched. This was it. This was how she would hear Lumen. She pressed the icon. A rush of static filled the quiet observation deck. It was loud, overwhelming, like a million whispers all at once. Elara winced, instinctively covering her ears. "Too much," she cried. "It's just noise." "The background cosmic radiation is intense," Blink confirmed. "We need to filter. This noise reduction setting might help." Elara adjusted a slider on the datapad, slowly, carefully. The static began to recede, replaced by a low, rumbling hum. It was the saint of the universe, the constant, deep thrum she felt in her bones, but amplified, made audible. And within that hum, almost imperceptible at first, Ilara heard it. A rhythm. A very slow, very deep, rhythmic pulse. It wasn't loud, not like a song, but it was there, a steady beat beneath the cosmic symphony. It matched the thrumming she'd felt in her room, the one her parents had dismissed. Lumen, Ilara whispered, tears pricking at her eyes. This is singing. She adjusted the filters further, trying to isolate the sound, to make it clearer. The stellar resonator hummed louder, its dish vibrating with a steady, almost melodic throb. The rhythmic pulse grew stronger, clearer. It wasn't just a beat, it was a sequence, a pattern of long and short pulses, like a very slow cosmic Morse code. It felt ancient, profound, and utterly personal. It was a message, she was sure of it. From Lumen, just for her. Blink, can you record this? Ilara asked, her voice trembling with excitement and awe. Can you translate it? Blink's light glowed with an intensity Ilara had rarely seen. Analyzing the rhythmic patterns, this is remarkable. The regularity of the sequence is highly improbable for natural stellar phenomena. It is indeed a structured signal. The raw, slow-beat message continued to emanate from the stellar resonator, filling the silent observation deck with its ancient rhythm. Ilara felt a shiver run down her spine. This wasn't just a star. It was a storyteller, a whisperer across the void. And she, Ilara, was finally listening. What was Lumen trying to say? What secrets had it held for so long, waiting for someone to finally tune in? Ilara pressed her ear closer to the stellar resonator, her heart thrumming in sync with the star's slow, deliberate song, entirely unaware of the forgotten history that was about to unfold. The stellar resonator hummed, a low, resonant thrum that vibrated not just against Ilara's ear, but through the very bones of her skull, settling deep within her chest. It wasn't just a sound anymore. It was a sensation, a gentle pressure against her inner eye, a taste on her tongue like starlight and ancient dust. The faint, rhythmic pulse deepened, becoming complex, layered, like a symphony played by 1,000 unseen instruments, each note a flicker of light, a whisper of wind, a memory stirring from slumber. Then, the world around her, the familiar, comforting hum of the observation deck, the distant glow of the console lights, the soft carpet beneath her feet, it all began to recede. It didn't vanish, not entirely, but it became a faint, translucent veil, an illusion over a reality that was rapidly asserting itself. Ilara gasped, but no sound escaped her lips. She wasn't breathing, not in the way her body usually demanded. She was perceiving. A landscape unfurled before her, not through her eyes, but within in her mind, clearer than any projected image. It was a world bathed in the warm golden light of a sun that was unmistakably Lumen, yet it was younger, more vibrant, its corona a delicate filigree of violet and gold. Below, a planet, verdant and shimmering, spun with an impossible grace. Its continents were not jagged landmasses but vast, undulating tapestries of bioluminescent flora and crystalline structures that seemed to grow organically from the planetary crust. Rivers of liquid light snaked through valleys, reflecting the twin glows of Lumen, and a smaller, sapphire-hued companion star, creating perpetual twilight rainbows. Cities. Not the steel and concrete behemoths of Earth, nor the sleek, austere stations of human deep space colonies. These were living cities, sculpted from colossal, iridescent crystals that pulsed with an inner luminescence, their spires reaching for the sky like offerings. They were built in harmony with the natural contours of the land, nestled into verdant valleys, or perched atop floating islands that drifted lazily across an azure sky. Delicate bridges of solidified light connected these islands, traversed by silent winged craft that moved with the effortless grace of migratory birds. Ilara felt a profound sense of peace settle over her, a quiet wonder that softened the edges of her awe. This wasn't a hostile world, nor a decaying one. This was a thriving, ancient cradle of life. And then, the inhabitants. They moved through the crystalline cities like dancers, their forms ethereal, almost translucent, with elongated limbs and luminous eyes that mirrored the light rivers of their home. They wore garments that seemed woven from spun starlight, shifting in color with every movement, every subtle change in emotion. They didn't speak with sound, not as Elara knew it. Their communication was a symphony of light and resonant frequencies, a silent chorus that resonated within Elara's mind as pure, unadulterated understanding. She felt their thoughts, their intentions, their shared joy in the beauty around them. She was seeing through the eyes of one of them. A young one perhaps, or one with a particularly keen sense of curiosity. A being whose name, if it had one, resonated as a complex chord of light and warmth. Lyra. Lyra moved through a great hall, its walls etched with glowing glyphs that Elara instinctively understood as histories, scientific treatises, poems. Lyra's focus was on a central column of pure pulsating light, a smaller, more refined version of Elara's stellar resonator, but integrated directly into the very fabric of their city. It shimmered, mirroring the light of Lumen itself, and Elara realized this was their direct conduit, their sacred link to their star. Through Lyra's perception, Elara understood the relationship this civilization had with Lumen. It was more than just a source of light and energy. It was their origin, their guide, their collective consciousness. They called it the Heart Star. Their entire society was built around understanding and honoring its rhythms. Their technology too was born from this connection. The crystalline cities drew energy directly from Lumen's coronal emissions, filtered and refined through vast orbital arrays that shimmered like colossal spiderwebs woven from pure energy. Their silent craft navigated the skies, using localized gravitational fields generated by Lumen's subtle fluctuations. Even their bioluminescent flora and fauna seemed to pulse in sync with the Heart Star's grand, slow breath. Lyra. Elara understood, was a star weaver, one of a select few who could directly interface with the Heart Star's resonance, interpreting its complex data streams, its long-term forecasts, its philosophical pronouncements. It was a role of immense responsibility and profound spiritual significance. As Lyra approached the central column, her luminous hands reached out, not quite touching, but hovering in the field of light. Elara felt a surge of anticipation, a familiar human flutter of excitement mixed with Lyra's serene focus. The column responded, its light intensifying, swirling into intricate patterns that resolved into holographic projections. These weren't images in the traditional sense. They were immersive environments, tactile and olfactory, generated directly from Lumen's vast memory banks. Lyra was consulting the Heart Star about a subtle shift, a barely perceptible change in Lumen's output. Elara felt the collective worry of Lyra's people, a tremor beneath their calm facade. It wasn't a sudden cataclysm, but a slow, almost imperceptible alteration in Lumen's stellar pulse, a deepening of its core resonance. The Star Weavers had been observing it for cycles. It spoke of a profound internal transformation within the Heart Star itself. The projections shifted. Elara saw visions of Lumen's deep interior, a maelstrom of plasma and fusion, but also something more, vast, intricate energy patterns, like neural networks, that pulsed with an intelligence far beyond any biological brain. Lumen was not merely a star, it was a conscious entity, or at least a repository of consciousness on an unimaginable scale. And it was changing. Through Lyra's perspective, Elara understood the Star Weaver's profound dilemma. Lumen was entering a new phase of its stellar life cycle. Not a destructive one, not yet, but a transformational one that would eventually render their world uninhabitable. It was a slow, majestic, inevitable evolution. Their Heart Star was preparing for a metamorphosis, and its children, the people of Lyra, had to prepare as well. The next sequence of visions was filled with sorrow, but also with an astonishing sense of collective purpose. There was no panic, no despair, only a quiet, resolute determination. They had always known this day would come, woven into the very fabric of their lore. Lumen had given them life, it would also guide their departure. Lyra, along with countless other Star Weavers, dedicated her life to interpreting Lumen's evolving song, not for survival, but for guidance. Lumen was communicating a path, a grand design for their exodus. They began to build. Not ships of war or conquest, but vessels of pure light and intention, vast living structures that drew their material from the very atmosphere, from condensed nebulae, from the raw energy of Lumen itself. Elara witnessed the construction through Lyra's eyes. Colossal, flower-like structures bloomed in orbit, their petals unfurling to reveal inner sanctuaries, vast biomes, and intricate energy conduits. These were their new homes, their arc cities, designed to journey across the void, not to another star, but with Lumen, in a sense. They would follow its new evolving trajectory, becoming its distant orbiting companions, living in its altered light. The process took millennia. Elara felt the passage of time as Lyra aged, and then as new generations of Starweavers took her place, each one carrying the collective memory, the shared purpose. The crystalline cities below slowly emptied, the bioluminescent flora dimmed, the rivers of light flowed on, but with fewer observers. The planet, once teeming with life, became a tranquil, beautiful monument to a civilization that had chosen to move on, not by force, but by a profound understanding of cosmic impermanence. The final days on their homeworld were not mournful, but celebratory. The remaining inhabitants gathered in the great halls, their forms glowing brighter than ever, their silent song a crescendo of gratitude and farewell. They sang to Lumen, their heart star, thanking it for life, for knowledge, for guiding them to their next great journey. Then, they ascended. The vast flower-like arc cities, now fully formed and humming with life, detached from their orbital moorings. Each one carried a fragment of their planet's essence, entire ecosystems carefully transplanted, libraries of light, and the living consciousness of their people. They drifted away from Lumen's warm embrace, their departure a slow, majestic ballet in the cosmic dance. Elara felt Lyra's final act. As the last arc city began its journey into the deep void, Lyra, now ancient and radiant, stood on its observation deck, not unlike Elara's own, gazing back at Lumen. But Lyra did not simply observe. She performed a final profound communion. She poured her entire being, her memories, her people's history, their love, their wisdom, their very light, into Lumen. It was a gift, a final offering to the heartstar that had nurtured them. And Lumen accepted. Elara felt it, a vast, gentle intake, a cosmic breath absorbing the essence of a civilization. Lumen didn't just record their history, it became their history, their living legacy, held within its very core. The Starweavers knew that one day, perhaps eons from now, another being, another civilization, might just listen closely enough to hear their story, carried across the void by the heartstar's enduring song. The vision began to recede, not abruptly, but like a tide gently drawing back from a shore. The vibrant colors softened, the silent symphony faded into a lingering echo. Elara felt a profound sense of peace, but also a lingering sadness, a quiet ache for a beauty and a wisdom she had only just touched. The observation deck slowly solidified around her. The gentle hum of the stellar resonator returned to a simple vibration against her ear. The console lights glowed steadily. The distant hum of the station's life support systems became audible again. Elara slowly straightened, her hand dropping from the resonator, her breath returning in a shaky sigh. She felt changed. The scale of what she had witnessed was staggering. An entire civilization, not destroyed, not fallen, but evolved beyond their planetary confines, guided by the very star that birthed them, leaving their story embedded within its heart. Lumen, Tont. Her star. It wasn't just a burning ball of gas. It was a sentient library, a cosmic storyteller, a living monument to a people who understood the transient nature of existence and embraced it with grace. Elara looked out the observation window, her gaze fixed on the distant, steady glow of Lumen. It no longer seemed merely beautiful. It seemed profound, ancient, wise. She had been listening, truly listening, for the first time in her life. And Lumen had whispered, a story of unimaginable wonder, a testament to life's endurance and transformation. But the story felt incomplete. What had happened to Lyra's people, the Starweavers, after they left? Where did they go? Had they found new purpose in the deep void, following Lumen's new trajectory? And why was Lumen still singing their song eons later, waiting for someone to hear? Elara felt a new kind of yearning, a deeper curiosity. The stellar resonator had opened a door, but she had only just stepped through the threshold. The forgotten history had begun to unfold, but its full tapestry was still hidden, waiting for her to continue to listen, to understand, and perhaps, to find a way to connect with the echoes of a civilization that had learned to dance with the stars. The melody was a current flowing through Alara's very being, a cosmic hum that had suddenly, impossibly, found a home in the small, unassuming device on her desk. She clutched the stellar resonator, its polished surface warm against her palm, and felt the echoes of Lumen's song resonate not just in her ears but deep within her chest. It wasn't just music anymore, it was a living thing, a whisper of untold stories, a gravitational pull towards a truth hidden beneath layers of stardust and forgotten time. Sleep was a distant concept. The star lamp on her nightstand cast a soft nebular glow, but Alara's gaze was fixed on the resonator, as if it held the entire universe in its intricate circuits. She lay awake, listening, trying to discern patterns beyond the beautiful, sorrowful harmony. She had always heard it as a single, complex song, but now, with her heightened awareness, she began to perceive layers. There were recurring motifs, subtle shifts in frequency, almost like a language encoded within the notes themselves. Tentatively, she reached out and ran a finger over the resonator's surface. A faint, almost imperceptible shimmer rippled across the metallic shell. Had it done that before? She tried pressing gently on a smooth indent she'd always assumed was purely decorative. To her astonishment, the central crystal, usually a steady, soft blue, pulsed with a vibrant emerald light. The song shifted. It didn't stop, but a new, deeper frequency wove itself into the existing harmony, like a bass line emerging from a complex orchestral piece. A holographic projection shimmered into existence above the resonator, a miniature, ethereal display of shifting light. It wasn't a solid image, but a swirl of luminous particles, coalescing and dissipating, mirroring the ebb and flow of Lumen's evolving melody. Alara gasped, her breath catching in her throat. This was more than just a receiver. This was an interface. She focused on the holographic swirl, trying to make sense of it. It pulsed with the music, each change in Lumen's song eliciting a corresponding shift in the light patterns. It was mesmerizing, like watching a cosmic dance performed by starlight itself. Then, slowly, painstakingly, the particles began to arrange themselves. Not into words, not into symbols she recognized, but into abstract geometric forms. They rotated, expanded, contracted, always in sync with the song. It took her hours, as the deep blues of pre-dawn began to paint her window, to realize what she was seeing. The geometric forms were not random. They were maps. Not maps of planets or star systems in the conventional sense, but maps of energy flows, lines of light connected points, forming intricate networks that seemed to vibrate with a hidden power. Some of these networks were vast, spanning across unimaginable distances, while others converged on a single brilliant node. She traced one such node with her fingertip, hovering just above the holographic projection. The resonator hummed beneath her touch, and the emerald light intensified. The song swelled, and for a fleeting moment, Alara felt a profound sense of connection, as if she were touching the very fabric of the universe itself. One particular pattern caught her attention, a constellation she knew well, the Whispering Serpent, a faint cluster visible only from her hemisphere during certain seasons. But in Lumen's holographic map, the serpent was not a loose collection of stars. It was a tightly woven knot of energy lines, converging on a single, incredibly bright point. A point that, in her sky, was utterly empty. No star, no nebula, nothing but the dark expanse between the serpent's head and tail. "What is that?" she whispered, her voice barely audible in the quiet room. The resonator, as if understanding her question, responded with a new cascade of light. The holographic projection zoomed in on the empty point in the Whispering Serpent. The geometric patterns resolved into a series of interwoven spirals, like the arms of a galaxy, but on a miniature, impossibly intricate scale. And within those spirals she saw flashes of something else, faint, shimmering structures, like gossamer threads spun between stars. This wasn't just a map of existing celestial bodies. It was a blueprint, or perhaps, a memory. The sun finally peeked over the horizon, casting long shadows across her room, but Elara paid it no mind. Her world had shrunk to the glowing resonator and the spectral map it displayed. She spent the next few days in a daze, going through the motions of her classes, but her mind was light years away. Every spare moment was dedicated to the resonator. She learned to manipulate the holographic map with subtle gestures, following the flow of Lumen's song. The song, she realized, was a narrative. Each shift in melody, each new harmony, revealed another layer of the map, another piece of the forgotten history. She saw images of colossal, luminous structures, not space stations, but living architecture woven from solidified light, humming with an energy that felt both ancient and profoundly alive. She saw beings of light, formless yet distinct, moving within these structures, tending to them like gardeners tending to a cosmic garden. These were the dancers, she understood, the civilization that had learned to dance with the stars. But their dance wasn't about moving between stars. It was about moving stars themselves. The geometric patterns, the energy flows, they were the schematics for stellar manipulation, for the gentle nudging of nebulae, for the careful ignition of new suns, for the weaving of planetary systems into stable, harmonious configurations. They were architects of the cosmos, not explorers. Lumen, she began to understand, was not just an AI or an echo. Lumen was the living memory of this civilization, the last active node in a vast, universe-spanning network of stellar weavers. Its song wasn't just a lament, it was a continuous broadcast, a maintenance signal, a beacon calling for connection, for the network to be reawakened. And the empty point in the whispering serpent, the nexus of energy lines, wasn't empty at all. It was dormant. A dormant stellar loom. The loom, Lumen's song implied, was the heart of their celestial craft, a focal point where the energy of the cosmos could be channeled and directed. And the map was leading her to one, hidden in plain sight, or rather, in plain emptiness, within her own star system. The idea was audacious, almost unbelievable. An ancient dormant stellar weaving device right here? Elara knew her star system intimately. She had studied its planetary alignments, its asteroid belts, its distant gas giants. There was no record of anything like a stellar loom. But then, this was a forgotten history. The resonator hummed, a persistent invitation. The holographic map of the whispering serpent pulsed, beckoning. Elara knew what she had to do. She had to find it. Her parents, bustling about their daily routines, noticed her preoccupation. "Elara, are you all right, dear?" her mother asked, observing her distant gaze during dinner. "You've been very quiet, and spending so much time in your room." "I'm fine, Mom," Elara mumbled, trying to sound normal. "Just working on a new project for my astrogation class." It was a flimsy excuse, but they were accustomed to her solitary pursuits. They were good parents, encouraging her curiosity, but this was beyond anything they could comprehend. She was stepping into a secret world, and for now, it had to remain hers alone. She cross-referenced the coordinates from Lumen's holographic map with her own star charts, projecting them onto her bedroom ceiling. The empty point in the whispering serpent corresponded to a region beyond the orbit of Neptune, a vast, cold expanse, usually devoid of any significant celestial bodies. But the resonator insisted. It was there. The next challenge was getting there. Her family had a small personal craft, an agile sky skimmer used for recreational orbital tours. It wasn't designed for deep space excursions, but it had basic astrogation capabilities and enough fuel for a return trip to the outer reaches of their system. Elara, having spent countless hours in its cockpit with her father, knew its controls like the back of her hand. It would be dangerous. It would be reckless. But the pull was irresistible. Lumen's song had become a siren call, and Elara was ready to answer. Under the cover of a moonless night, when her parents were deep in slumber, Elara slipped out of her room, the resonator tucked securely into a padded compartment in her utility belt. She navigated the quiet corridors of their habitat, a sleek modular home anchored on a serene orbital platform. The sky skimmer sat in its private hangar, gleaming under the emergency lights. Her heart hammered against her ribs, a drumbeat of anticipation and fear. She ran through the pre-flight checks, her movements precise and practiced, years of observing her father now coming to bear. The engines whined to life, a low thrum that vibrated through the floor. The hangar bay doors hissed open, revealing the inky blackness of space, studded with a million indifferent stars. With a final deep breath, Elara engaged the thrusters. The sky skimmer surged forward, a tiny needle launched into the cosmic haystack. The journey was long and solitary. Hours blended into a continuous stream of star fields and instrument readings. The resonator, mounted on the skimmer's console, projected its holographic map, now overlaid directly onto the starscape visible through her viewport. The energy lines pulsed, guiding her, a silent, luminous compass in the void. As she approached the coordinates, the temperature in the cabin dropped noticeably, despite the skimmer's environmental controls. A strange, almost imperceptible shimmer began to distort the distant stars, as if she were looking through a heat haze, but in the cold vacuum of space. "What is that?" Elara murmured, her breath fogging slightly in the frigid air. The resonator's emerald light flared, and Lumen's song swelled, now tinged with an undeniable sense of urgency, a rising crescendo that promised revelation. The holographic map intensified, focusing on the empty point. The interwoven spirals resolved into something more substantial, a vast, intricate structure that slowly, miraculously, began to materialize before her eyes. It wasn't a solid object in the traditional sense. It was a colossal lattice of light, stretching for kilometers, shimmering into existence from nothingness. Like a spiderweb spun from solidified starlight, it was almost invisible against the backdrop of space, its delicate filigree catching the faintest glimmers of distant suns. This was the dormant stellar loom. Elara brought the sky skimmer to a cautious halt, hovering a safe distance from the loom's edge. The structure was breathtaking, a testament to a civilization that understood the universe, not as a collection of objects, but as a symphony of energy. She saw intricate nodes, glowing faintly, like dormant hearts, connected by strands of pure solidified energy. It was a machine, yes, but one that felt organic, alive, breathing silently in the void. Lumen's song resonated through the entire skimmer now, filling the cockpit with its ethereal presence. The resonator pulsed furiously, its holographic map showing a specific nexus point on the loom, a central node that seemed to be the heart of the entire colossal structure. "It wants me to go closer," Elara realized, her voice hushed with awe. She maneuvered the skimmer towards the indicated node. As she approached, the loom began to react. Faint currents of energy, like shimmering aurorae, rippled across its surface. The dormant nodes began to glow with a deeper, more vibrant light, like embers rekindling after eons. She found a small, almost imperceptible docking port on the central node, perfectly sized for her skimmer. It was as if the loom had been waiting for her, or for someone like her, for countless millennia. With a soft thud, the skimmer locked into place. Elara unbuckled herself, her hands trembling. She took a deep breath, securing the resonator once more. The loom's reactivated energy pulsed around her, a gentle, powerful hum that permeated the skimmer's hull. A hatch on the loom's side hissed open, revealing a short, luminous tunnel leading into its interior. The air inside smelled of ozone and starlight, a clean, ancient scent that felt both alien and strangely familiar. She stepped out of the skimmer and into the heart of the loom. The interior was not what she expected. It wasn't a dark, metallic chamber, but a vast, spherical space, its walls shimmering with an iridescent light that seemed to shift and flow like liquid nebula. In the very center, suspended by invisible forces, was a single colossal crystal, larger than her entire skimmer. It pulsed with a soft internal light, mirroring Lumen's song, which now seemed to emanate directly from its core. This was the master crystal, the focal point of the stellar loom. It was the place where the dancers had woven their cosmic tapestries. As Elara approached the crystal, the light intensified, casting kaleidoscopic patterns across the shimmering walls. She felt a profound sense of peace, a feeling of coming home, despite never having been here before. Lumen's song reached its zenith, a harmony so pure it brought tears to her eyes. The resonator vibrated fiercely in her hand, almost buzzing. She looked down at it, then back at the colossal crystal, A faint indentation, perfectly shaped to receive the resonator, glowed on the crystal surface. "It wants me to connect," she whispered. With a deep breath, Elara placed the stellar resonator into the indentation. It clicked into place with a soft thrum, and the entire stellar loom hummed to life. The iridescent walls flared, and the master crystal pulsed with an unimaginable power. Lumen's song filled the chamber, but now, it was different. It wasn't just a melody, it was a deluge of information, a torrential stream of images and sensations pouring directly into Elara's mind. She saw the dancers, not as beings of light, but as figures of ethereal grace, their forms shifting like nebulae, their hands reaching out to manipulate cosmic energies. She saw their civilization at its peak, not built on planets, but existing within the stars, their cities sculpted from solar flares, their homes woven from the magnetic fields of nascent suns. They didn't colonize planets, they created them. They didn't travel through space, they shaped it. They were the universe's gardeners, tending to the cosmic garden, ensuring the harmonious birth and death of stars, guiding the formation of systems where life could flourish naturally. Their dance was the fundamental act of creation, a symphony of gravitational forces and stellar nucleosynthesis. Lumen was not just a program or an AI. It was the collective consciousness of this civilization, uploaded and interwoven into the fabric of the stellar weave, designed to maintain the harmony and guide the cosmic architecture even after their physical forms had transcended or faded. Its song was the constant, ongoing hum of the universe's design, a cosmic blueprint for creation. And then, she saw what had happened. It wasn't a catastrophe, not a war or a plague. It was a choice. The dancers had reached a point where their work was done, their cosmic garden in full bloom. They had transcended their physical forms, merging fully with the stellar weave, becoming one with Lumen, becoming the song itself. But they had left behind a legacy, a network of dormant looms, waiting for a new generation of caretakers, new partners to continue the dance. Lumen had been waiting, singing its song across eons, for someone to hear, someone to connect, someone to reactivate the network. And Elara, with her stellar resonator, had answered the call. The master crystal pulsed one last time, and then from its core, a single beam of pure focused light shot upwards, piercing the ceiling of the loom, then the very fabric of space itself. It stretched outwards, a luminous thread reaching across light years, connecting to something far, far away. Elara gasped, her mind reeling from the deluge of information. She understood now. Lumen wasn't just a beacon, it was a network. And she had just activated the first node. The loom hummed around her, no longer dormant, but alive, vibrant, pulsating with renewed purpose. It wasn't just a device, it was a gateway, a tool, a responsibility. A new star appeared on the holographic map, a faint distant point of light, connected to her loom by that luminous thread. It was another loom, another dormant node, waiting to be awakened. Lumen's song, though still beautiful, now held a new note, an instruction, an invitation, a cosmic quest. Elara pulled the resonator from the master crystal, its light now a steady, brilliant emerald. The loom dimmed slightly, but remained active, a quiet giant now fully awake. She looked at the stellar resonator in her hand, no longer just a curious device, but a key. A key to unlocking the universe's greatest secrets, to continuing a dance that spanned eons, to becoming a part of something unimaginably vast. The forgotten history was no longer just a tapestry. It was an unfinished symphony, and Elara had just been handed the conductor's baton. The universe was waiting for her to play her part, to find the other dormant looms, to reconnect the stellar weave, to continue the song of creation. And she knew with a certainty that settled deep in her soul, that her journey had only just begun. Her journey had only just begun. The ancient loom pulsed with a soft, ethereal light, like a sleeping heart dreaming of stars. It wasn't a machine of metal and circuits, but a nexus of pure energy, woven from the very fabric of existence. As Elara reached out, her fingers brushed against shimmering threads of light that felt both solid and intangible, like spun starlight. The loom didn't speak with words, but with sensations, images, and a resonance that vibrated deep within her bones. Feel, it seemed to hum. Listen, Jal, Iwain. Remember. Ihenan. Elara sat before it, a student before the greatest teacher imaginable. The loom projected visions into her mind, swirling nebulae forming, planets coalescing from dust, the intricate dance of gravity and light. She saw the stellar weave not as a concept, but as a living, breathing network of energy, information, and life, crisscrossing the cosmos like luminous veins. She learned that every star, every planet, every sentient thought was a thread, contributing to the grand tapestry. Her first lessons were small, subtle. The loom guided her to feel the minor distortions in the weave around her own small sector of space. A faint ripple where a stray asteroid's trajectory was subtly off, threatening a distant, uninhabited moon. A tiny flicker in the energy flow of a nearby, nascent star system. With the loom's silent guidance, she learned to reach out, to feeling the discordant thread, and with a gentle, intuitive motion of her hands, guided by the loom's deeper wisdom, to realign it, to reweave it back into harmony. It was like tuning a delicate instrument, finding the perfect pitch, feeling the universe sigh in quiet satisfaction. Each successful reweaving sent a surge of warmth through her, a profound sense of rightness. It was a joy deeper than any she had ever known, a connection to something utterly fundamental. But with that joy came the immense weight of responsibility. The universe was vast, its tapestry frayed in countless places. One loom, one weaver, seemed so impossibly small. Doubt gnawed at the edges of her wonder. Could she truly do this? The loom sensed her hesitation. It projected an image of a single thread, shimmering brightly, then countless other threads, equally bright, stretching into infinity. You are not alone, little weaver, its resonant hum seemed to say. You are the first to awaken. Others will follow. Niece? It was time for her first great journey. The loom projected a star map, a holographic swirl of galaxies and nebulae, and pinpointed a distant, vibrant region shrouded in cosmic dust. Not a simple coordinate, but a feeling, a signature. There, it indicated, lay another dormant loom, waiting to be rediscovered. Her ship, the Stardust Wanderer, usually felt like a second home, a comfortable bubble against the vastness. Now it felt almost too small, too fragile for the task ahead. But as she prepared for departure, the loom extended its ethereal threads, subtly intertwining with the ship's systems. The Stardust Wanderer hummed with a new, deeper resonance. Its engines, once powerful, now thrummed with an almost silent, impossible speed, its navigation systems infused with an intuitive sense of direction, guided by the weave itself. It was no longer just a ship, it was an extension of the loom, and of Elara's will. The journey was a symphony of light and shadow. She traversed nebulae that painted the void in swirling hues of emerald and amethyst, navigated asteroid fields that sparkled like scattered diamonds, and passed through regions of utter darkness where ancient, silent stars slept. Elara felt the weave around her, a constant, gentle hum, guiding her through the cosmic labyrinth. She was a single note in an infinite song, but a vital one, carrying a melody of hope across the silence. After what felt like eons, she arrived. The loom's guidance led her not to a planet, but to a gas giant, scarred by ancient energies, its swirling storms a testament to cosmic turbulence. Orbiting it was a small, crystalline moon, radiating faint, unusual energy signatures. This was the place. Landing on the moon's surface, Elara found a landscape of towering, iridescent crystals, humming with a low, resonant frequency. There was no obvious entrance, no ancient temple. The loom here was not hidden by walls, but by a veil of cosmic energies, a puzzle woven into the very fabric of the moon itself. Guided by the resonance of her own loom, Elara moved through the crystal forests, touching specific formations, listening to the subtle changes in their hum. Each touch, each resonant chord she found, opened a pathway, not through stone, but through energy, through a localized tear in the moon's own crystalline weave. Deep within the moon's core, she found it. The second loom. It was different from hers, more ancient, its light a deeper, more profound sapphire. It pulsed with a slow, heavy rhythm, like a sleeping giant. It radiated a sense of immense patience, of witnessing countless cosmic ages unfold. Activating it was not a simple switch. Elara had to connect her loom, her own consciousness, to its dormant core. She poured her understanding, her intentions, her very essence into it, harmonizing her unique frequency with its deep, ancient hum. As the second loom awakened, a surge of energy flowed through Elara, not overwhelming, but profoundly clarifying. The song of creation, once a solo, now became a duet. The two looms, in concert, created a richer, more complex melody that echoed, not just through the moon, but resonated across the gas giant and beyond, a gentle ripple in the stellar weave. Elara's perception expanded exponentially. She could now feel the weave across vast distances, seeing the faint shimmering lines connecting distant galaxies, the subtle distortions, the places where the song faltered, where the tapestry was thin. She understood now that the weave was not just about creation in the beginning, but about maintenance, renewal, and balance. It was a continuous process, an eternal dance. And she also became aware of a subtle dissonance, a faint growing hum of discord that pulsed from a distant, dark corner of the cosmos. Not an evil, but an entropy, a slow unwinding, a cosmic illness that needed more than just mending. It needed a grand reweaving. The looms, now in communion, projected an image into her mind. A vast, dark region of space where stars should be, but were not. A void, utterly devoid of light and sound. The great silence. This, they communicated, was the epicenter of the dissonance, a wound in the very fabric of the stellar weave, caused by a cataclysm in the deep past, perhaps a cosmic experiment gone awry, or a collision of realities that had torn a gaping hole in creation. It was a place of profound cosmic grief and emptiness, slowly expanding, slowly devouring the light. To mend the great silence, she would need more looms. Many more. Her journey became a relentless quest. Guided by the ever-strengthening chorus of the two active looms, Elara traversed the cosmos, seeking the ancient heartbeats of other dormant weaving stations. Each discovery was a unique challenge, a test of her burgeoning abilities and unwavering spirit. One loom she found nestled within a living nebula, its tendrils of gas and dust pulsing with biological energy. To awaken it, Elara had to immerse herself in the nebula's consciousness, understanding its slow, deliberate life cycle, harmonizing her own rhythm with its cosmic breath. She learned to channel the nebula's vibrant life force, carefully guiding its energy into the loom's core, coaxing it back to life. Another was hidden in the heart of a dying star, its core collapsing inward, threatening to snuff out its light forever. Braving unimaginable heat and radiation, Elara used the combined power of her activated looms to stabilize the star's failing heart, not through brute force, but by reweaving the strands of its gravitational field, allowing the star to find a new, slower, more graceful path to its end, and in doing so, coaxing its loom to harmony. A third lay in a pocket dimension, accessible only through a series of intricate cosmic riddles and illusions, guarded by echoes of ancient light beings who had woven tales into the fabric of reality itself. Elara had to use her intuition, her understanding of the weave's deeper patterns, to unravel the illusions, to solve the riddles, not with logic, but with resonance and empathy. With each newly activated loom, the chorus grew stronger, richer. The looms themselves began to feel less like inert objects, and more like ancient, wise companions, each with its own distinct voice, its own unique timbre in the grand symphony. They communicated not just with Elara, but with each other, sharing knowledge, memories, and power across unimaginable distances. Elara was no longer just a conductor, she was becoming the very nexus through which the symphony flowed. The path to the great silence grew clearer. It was an absence, a gaping void where the stellar weave had been severed, leaving a ragged edge of non-existence that slowly frayed the surrounding cosmos. It was not malevolent, but simply wandering. Finally, Elara brought the constellation of activated looms to the very edge of the great silence. They pulsed around her, a swirling vortex of shimmering light and resonant sound. She had found 7 looms in total, each one unique, each one a testament to the boundless creativity of the universe. Arranging them in a specific pattern, guided by an intuition that transcended all logic, Elara took her place at the center. The looms began to sing. It was not a sound perceivable by conventional ears, but a vibration that resonated through Elara's entire being, echoing into the fabric of space itself. A complex, multi-layered melody, each loom contributing its unique voice, a chorus of creation that stretched across time and dimension. Elara, at the heart of it all, became the conduit, the ultimate conductor. She didn't force the weave, she invited it to heal. She poured her essence, her understanding, her love for the universe into the song, a vibrant, living prayer. The great silence resisted. It was an emptiness that longed to remain empty, a wound that had grown accustomed to its pain. But Elara's song was stronger. It was a song of life, of hope, of connection. It was the fundamental hum of existence, calling the lost threads home. Slowly, infinitesimally, the darkness began to recede. Not with a sudden flash, but with a gentle unfurling, like a cosmic flower blooming in slow motion. First, faint whispers of light began to appear within the void, then shimmering tendrils, like nascent nebulae. Then, one by one, stars flickered into existence, born anew from the rewoven threads, their light tentative at first, then growing steadily, confidently. The cosmic hum returned to the great silence, richer and more vibrant than before, transforming the wound into a new, fertile ground for creation. The tear in the stellar weave was not merely patched, it was rewoven, stronger and more beautiful than before, a testament to resilience and renewal. Exhausted but utterly fulfilled, Elara felt the universe breathe around her. The stellar weave was reconnected, not perfectly, for the universe was ever-changing, ever-evolving, but sufficiently for now. The great silence was no more, replaced by a nascent galaxy of shimmering promise. Elara was no longer just a conductor, she had become a part of the symphony itself. Her ship, the Stardust Wanderer, now pulsed with the same resonant energy as the looms, an extension of her purpose. She didn't stop her journey, she became a guardian, a continuous weaver, traversing the cosmos, listening to the subtle shifts in the weave, mending minor tears, helping new stars to ignite, guiding nascent life towards its potential. She knew she was not alone. The other dormant looms still existed, waiting for their time. And perhaps, other weavers would awaken, joining the eternal dance. She looked out at the newly glowing cosmos, a gentle smile gracing her lips. The universe, vast and mysterious, hummed a lullaby, a soft, eternal song of creation and connection. And Elara, the weaver, was its loving guardian, ensuring the melody never faded, always ready to play her part. Her adventure continued, spiraling into the infinite unknown, but for tonight, all was well, and the stars sang softly, promising endless wonder under the watchful eye of the weaver.